Sami, for your introduction. It is a great pleasure for me to be here. I have heard a lot of talk about MEDIAMORFOSIS. I have never been able to attend MEDIAMORFOSIS until today, so I'm very happy to be here. We are going to talk about the future and how technology is transforming profoundly the way we live. Let me start by asking you a question. Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? Very good. My goal for the next half hour is for you to stop being so. I have come here to make you uncomfortable because I believe that comfort is a very dangerous stance in such a fast-changing world like today's. How many computers can you see in this picture? Can you see any? Why don't you take a better look, take a closer look, because actually they're all computers. Because before machines did the calculations, it was people who did calculations. There was a job which was to do computing. It's a joke, please laugh. All my jokes are bad. If I tell you about a telephone switch, you may think about a machine, but being a telephone switch was a job. Those of you like me who are older than 40 will remember that when you wanted to make a long-distance call when you were a kid, you had to request that call 2 or 3 hours earlier. Why? Because you needed those people, those telephone switching people, to connect the cables which made it physically possible to communicate with other people. So the replacement of humans by a machine is nothing new. It's very old. Technology is permanently taking over the jobs of the present, turning them into jobs of the past. So it's turning these jobs into past jobs, making entire professions obsolete. Instead, computers are creating new jobs, jobs of the future. In general, they are very, very different from the old ones. I have come here to talk to you about this strange privilege of being the generation that's going to undergo the greatest change in the history of humanity in the labor world. And the reason for this is a technology that you must have been hearing, which is artificial intelligence. How much do you know about this topic? Let me share with you a brief history of artificial intelligence with you. Making computers that can solve problems which traditionally required human intellect is not new. It's more than 50 years old. Someone at the MIT with a group of scientists started, and for the next 30 years, they couldn't achieve anything. Efforts failed so much so that AI for a long time was a bluff. You know, things where there is a lot of talk about, but nothing happens until 30 years later, computers got their first victory. You may remember in 1997, a computer called Deep Blue who beat Garry Kasparov, the chess champion. Everyone's reaction was terrible. People couldn't believe that a computer could convince the best human being on the planet in such an intelligence-intensive task such as chess. People were flabbergasted. This is not surprising. You know why? Because Deep Blue had been programmed by human beings. And programming a computer is very much like a recipe. In a recipe, there is a thorough specification of the steps to follow, and if the cook follows those steps properly, there are no surprises. The result is a dish like it was conceived by the recipe writer. That's how Deep Blue was made. Human beings writing the steps, and a computer which passively, with no intelligence at all, executed the steps that those programmers had conceived. That approach is so limited that Deep Blue could win the #1 chess player in the world, but it couldn't play tic-tac-toe. It couldn't do any job as trivial as it may be, other than that ultra-specific job that had been assigned to it. Now there is a new way for AI. You must have heard about this task, which is deep learning. This resulted in the second great victory of computers some time ago, when AlphaGo, a computer, beat the #1 Go winner. This game is not well known here, but it has been played in the East for 3,500 years. And what we don't know is that Go is thousands and thousands and thousands times more complex than chess. There are more possible positions in a Go board than atoms in the entire universe. AlphaGo didn't beat the world champion. This is a Korean winner who had received 18 world victories. AlphaGo crushed this champion. Not only did AlphaGo win this man, he destroyed him sentimentally. This champion didn't even want to go to the board to play. He was shuffling to the table because he was cursing and saying, "Why should I be doing this?" This opened very interesting doors, because AlphaGo was not programmed to play Go, just like Deep Blue had been programmed to play chess. AlphaGo was programmed to learn to play Go. Deep learning companies don't program, they learn. So it gave a neuronal network to this computer that this computer hundreds and thousands of games or matches of Go. Once this had been analyzed by the computer and learned, it started to play 10 million matches to practice against itself. And after having played 10 million matches, AlphaGo was quite good at Go. So much so that there's no human being on this planet that can beat it. What I'm saying is that we were able to have a machine with superhuman capacity for a highly complex job without human intervention, without having to program it or tell them how to do it. This opens very interesting doors. We have 2 AlphaGo copies, and we give one conservative and aggressive player profiles. Both learn how to play, but they will have different personalities. One will be like Menotti coach, and the other one be like Bilardo coach, some soccer Argentine coaches. So we give one 200,000 matches, and we give 100,000 matches to the other one. The most educated one will play better. If we ask one to practice for 1 million matches and just 500,000 to the other one, the most trained computer will play better. So all of this starts to look like we human beings work. Another interesting piece of information is that this entire process, from the time AlphaGo didn't have the faintest idea of the game, were given the matches, analyzed it, did 10 million matches, and they were ready to beat the best player in the planet. All that process was completed in 40 days. If there isn't artificial intelligence today capable of doing a highly complex job that you choose with superhuman capacity, we would be able to do so in 40 days' time. The last thing that I would like to share with you regarding this match is that AlphaGo beat the champion with moves that he described as beautiful. very creative and ingenious, which had never been seen until that time. AlphaGo did moves that made experts feel overwhelmed, bewildered. The Go world is totally revolutionized because of the new innovations and variants introduced by AlphaGo. All human beings are exploring all the new possibilities that no human being had been able to foresee in 3,500 years. These are computers that can learn anything, not just how to play board games. They are learning anything. The genie has left the lamp. Today there's AI that can write an article for the newspaper. If I give you an article written by a human being and an article written by a computer, you won't be able to tell which is which. So much so that last year the Washington Post published 850 articles written by a computer and no readers realized. In a few years' time, we will be able to identify which is which. The one that is much better written is the one written by the computer. Today, there's AI that can predict who's gonna have a heart attack better than any cardiologist. There's AI that can diagnose cancer from MRI or CAT scan images and provide customized treatment protocols in a manner that no oncologist can do. There's AI getting ready to become lawyers. Fancy for a moment a lawyer who could have in their mind all the laws, all the court rulings, all the appeals, all the expert rulings, all the background, all the case law, everything for designing a legal strategy. This is the change that's coming, and it will leave lots of the current jobs obsolete. It will make lots of the current jobs obsolete. And at the same time, lots of new jobs will be created which have nothing to do with the ones that we are currently performing. The second thing that I would like to discuss is how we are reacting in the light of this. Because I'm sure that it's not the first time that you are hearing this. This is being talked about everywhere. The president of the World Bank says that 2/3 of the current jobs are going to disappear. Stephen Hawking, Mark Zuckerberg said it. Also, all the great thinkers of today are talking about this. And how are we reacting? The answer is very simple. We are not reacting. We continue with our life as if this were going to happen on another planet, as if this were a bad science fiction movie and not something real. One of the things that I do is to have a radio column in Matthias Martin's show on Metro Radio. And I do social media service before going live. And I add the replies as part of my column on the radio. So I did a survey on the jobs of the future. And I asked the radio audience whether they thought that their jobs were going to be replaced by robots or AI over the next few years. 70% of the people said that they believed that it wouldn't change. It's not going to be my case. That's not going to happen to me. In that same survey, I asked them whether they thought that they were ready for the jobs of the future. Again, 70% of the people believe that they are ready. Yes, bring them along. Are you ready for your future? Let me make a small analogy. I'm going to tell you good news and bad news. The big news is that you have classified for the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2 years' time. You are in, you're going to be competing in the Olympic Games. Now the bad news comes. The bad news is that these are going to be peculiar Olympic Games, and you can't know in advance in which sport you will need to compete. That's gonna be chosen randomly 5 minutes before the Olympic Games start. Maybe wrestling or running a marathon or jumping from a trampoline, weightlifting, whatever. How would you get ready for that Olympic game? That's precisely the mess we have today, because the only thing we know about the jobs of the future is that we don't know what they're going to be like. We need to get ready for a world about which we don't have the faintest idea. So, if we continue with the sports metaphor, rather than training on specific disciplines like wrestling or Greek wrestling, we need to acquire horizontal skills. In sports, it's like aerobic strength or force or stretching or concentration ability, skills that would help us perform in a wide variety of possible scenarios. Maybe the mess is that we are quite old, most of us. But millennials or centennials, even better, those children that were born after the year 2000 who were born with a computer in their cot. They held a phone in their hands rather than a toy. So they are getting ready for this. Centennials are 19, 18, 19 years old. They are going to college already. So if we look at the jobs they choose, we may infer what they will want to become once they grow up. If we look at the UBA census, it so happens that centennials want to be accountants, then lawyers, nurses, architects, psychologists, educators, doctors. Centennials are massively getting ready for the jobs of the past. They think that they're gonna be accountants like my mommy and lawyers like my daddy, but they don't realize that we won't be working as lawyers, psychologists, accountants like we do today 10 years from now. So now we go to the heart of the talk. How can we get ready for this? What shall we do? Let me propose some ideas. The first thing is we will need to redefine education. I talked to you about education, and I'm sure that those of you who have children will be thinking about your children. Those of you who don't have children will be thinking about the children that you will have one day. But I'm not talking to you about your children. We live in a world where knowledge gets outdated more and more, faster and faster. This was written by a Harvard professor, Samuel Arbesman. Knowledge can't last for 10 years. So if you are starting a college program, by the time you finish it, you should already start over, because what you saw in the first year is no longer valid. This is a big problem for the children who are studying today, but it's even more serious for us, who were educated 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. How much of all our knowledge has become outdated? How much aware are we of the obsolescence of our own knowledge? In preparing this talk, I wanted to find some information, some statistics on how many hours are devoted in the different stages of life to learning. In the US, there's statistics for everything. The US Department of Labor of the US gave me that information. That's where I found it. From 15 to 19, we devote almost 1,200 hours per year for learning, 6 hours per business day. From 20 to 24, this number drops to less than half, 540. From 25 to 34, 86 hours. from 35 to 54, which is the peak of professional performance of people, where most of the audience belongs. From 35 to 54, 23. 23 hours a year. A year. After 54, the study said neglectable. 0. We tend to idealize how easy it was for us to learn when we were young, but we forget the huge number of hours that we devoted to learning, not twice as much or 3 times more, 50 times more. 50 times more hours at age 17 than at age 35. Definitely, it was a slow changing world. It was perfect to devote 100% of the time, or almost 100%, almost full time, devoted to learning during 20% of our lives. And then nothing. And then let's start working. I have already learned. I'm an economist. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. In a faster changing world, this formula is obsolete. Rather than devoting 100% of the time during 20% of our life, we need to devote 20% of the time, 100% of our life. Redefining education doesn't mean changing it for our children. Redefining education means changing the place that education takes in our own life. The only way of supporting change is by truly devoting a significant part of our time to learning.
Since I drew this conclusion, I have taken a dramatic decision. On Friday mornings, I don't work anymore. Friday mornings, I study in Harvard, free, for free, online, sitting in my living room. And my goal is to be able to do that in the afternoon of Fridays. That is my goal, to say that I can study at the Sorbonne or at Stanford, whatever. We have everything at the tip of our fingers to learn from the best professors, the best universities. Learning from those who are great is the best we can do. Nobody is forcing me to do things that are not motivating. I am not worried about getting good grades. I just want to learn. I don't have any accountability in addition to that. We will have to devote that time to develop new capabilities or skills, and I want to mention some ideas in this respect. Preparing my radio column, I always do a lot of research. So I decided to have a survey with the HR officers of large companies and ask them what they were looking for in their personnel searches 10 years ago, and what they are looking for today, and what they believe they are going to be looking for in 10 years' time. And the result was amazing. 10 years ago, they were looking for technical skills and dedication. That is to say, people that arrive early, that stay until late, and they know what they are doing while they are working. Hard skills. Skills focused on the task itself. Today, anyone who is familiarized with the world of human resources will know that this has changed. The buzzwords today are flexibility, resilience, communication, interpersonal skills, larger skills. When you talk about, or when you ask about 10 years' time, all answers had to do with innovation, creativity, and continued learning skills. This is aligned with the chart I showed you a moment ago. So what these people are seeing is that it is not about changing an old set of A skills and replace it with a new set of B skills. It is going from a static set of skills to a dynamic set of skills, where the most important skill is to be able to change your own skills permanently. I would like to mention 3 of them, which will be very important to have in order to be prepared for the world of the future. The first one is that everyone will have to become centaurs, man-horses. Now, let me say something else about artificial intelligence. When Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue, Kasparov was a very competitive guy. He was a bad loser, and he said in an interview that the match had been rigged, that there had been some cheating or tricks, and then he realized after a while that he was wrong, and for 10 years he did not talk about that. He reappeared 10 years later on, organizing a new competition for a new discipline that he called the centaur chess. In this type of chess, there are no people against there are no humans against machines playing. There is a computer-assisted person against another person assisted by a computer. So the interesting thing about this variety of chess is that the winner will not be the best chess player, and the winner will not be the best software. It is interesting, as in every other walk of life. The best team will prevail. The team that can better harmonize the qualities, the human qualities and the machine qualities, will be the winner. This is fundamental. What I'm telling you is that computer plus machine will beat the computer. So, if the human beings will fight against machines, we are done for, because machines will always beat us. But the team of a human and a computer will be a winning team. The human plus machine team, the centaur, will win the machine on its own. This implies a different position, building a team with a machine that is better than us at many other things. And the big barrier is our ego. When 8 years ago the Waze application came up, I downloaded it quickly in order to get fast from one point to another. And whenever I got on a taxi in Buenos Aires, I indicated the driver where to take me based on this app. 8 years ago, most taxi drivers were angry. Their reaction, the local reaction in Spanish, was, "Are you coming to tell me with that little device where I need to go? I have been in the streets for 20 years and you want to tell me?" Absolutely. I don't care about traffic 20 years ago. I care about traffic 20 seconds ago, and that is something that Waze can tell me. Now, 8 years have gone by, and I still do the same. I use Waze, and most of the taxi drivers don't get angry when you tell them where to go based on Waze. They don't use Waze. They don't get angry, but they don't use Waze. They have one of those new GPS devices. Using Waze for me is very simple. It means getting there 5 minutes early and lowering your anxiety. Now, for taxi drivers, this is fundamental for taxi drivers because it means more money, shorter trips, less consumption of fuel, and more money. Why aren't they using it? Because of an ego issue. They can't accept that a small device can be better than them or can beat them in a task that they considered very skillful at. Now, the second skill has to do with this ability of getting out of the fish pond, of innovating, of creating, and of being different from the rest. We will have to recover that little innovator that we carry inside of us. Some of us have buried this innovator with years of routine and education. But you will have to take care of, you will have to nurture this innovator that you have inside. The worst enemy is resistance to change. Resistance to change is not a defect. It is an constitutive aspect, or it's a constituent of our human nature. And we all have resistance to change, and it's there for a reason, because our brain evolved in a world that did not change in the past. When our grandfather, who lived in Africa, in the African plateau, and they went to find food, if they found a lion, they would never get in that direction. If they tried another way and they found fruit, they would go to that path. So those individuals who had a strong inertia in their conduct, they avoided what meant a failure. They avoided making mistakes twice, and they populated the world where we are. We are the great-great-great-great-grandchildren of those ancestors that reacted in a certain way when they found the winning formula. So when we face a need to change, or when we want to justify our behaviors, we work on excuses. But perhaps the greatest trick, or the most prejudicial aspect, is how changing rewards and punishments are. This is the formula that made you successful in the 20th century, and it can lead you to the worst failure if you are not able to change in time. So it is a formula of success in this decade, what will kill you in 5 years' time if you're not able to release your own, or to let go of your success formula. The third quality, the last one, has to do with that magic that occurs when two people meet, and this is called empathy. Let me give you an example, an anecdote. Some months ago, I was going to the radio in a taxi. I took out my wallet and paid, and when I got off the taxi, I realized that my credit cards, my documents, everything was inside my wallet that was left in the taxi. I decided to wait. My name is Santiago Bilinkis. There is no one else who's called like me throughout the world. I am in all social media. It is very easy to locate me. If the person who wanted, or who found the wallet, wanted to contact me, it was very feasible he or she could do it. Additionally, my address was in my driver's license. Finally, at 9:30 in the evening, someone left my wallet at my home address. So it was probably the same taxi driver. But before I wanted to use my credit cards, I needed to see whether they had been used during the day. And after thousands of attempts for not letting me speak with a human being, if you are a platinum client, press 1. If you were born on a Tuesday, press 2, for instance. We always press 00 because we want to talk with a human being. After pressing 0 for many times, I managed to talk with a human being. I told them that I wanted to know if someone had used my credit card after 2 p.m. Our time, business times, is from 8 to 8 p.m. After 8 p.m., you should check on the website. I told them, I am quite nervous. I have to do 300 calls like this one. Could you please let me know if someone used my card? That was my answer. Well, our business time is from 8 to 8. I'm sure you have a computer, and the computer does not shut down at 8 p.m. So could you please, I repeat, that was the answer. After 8 p.m., you should look on the website. I took a deep breath and I said, I'm not going to hang up on you. If you want, you can hang up on me. But I think you have the opportunity to do a good deed and answer, because I'm sure you have the information. So I will be here waiting for you to hang up or to answer. There was a long silence, and then he or she said, nobody used your card. Thank you. This is a 100% real story. When you look at the professions that, in theory, are threatened, there are many analyses of the threatened or endangered professions, and the telemarketers are usually quite high up on the ranking. Let them disappear very soon, please. There is no humanity. There is no humane treatment. We all want to deal with a person in that kind of situation. And I found a person that was playing the machine, pretending to be a machine. Machines are better machines than we are. We will never beat a machine in that area. But we all prefer to interact with human beings because we have the expectation that a human person will be listening on the other end. For some reason, we have been emptying our jobs from empathy and humanity. But our challenge is to continue filling them with humanity and making a difference by being humans and also building a connection with other humans. To conclude, I have some final thoughts. It will be very important for you to achieve the deep effects of the IT change. We all understand the superficial aspects. We know WhatsApp, the WhatsApp groups, that's the worst invention in the history of humanity by far. But that's not it. And let me show you how difficult it is to understand the profound or deep aspects, talking about two industries that have been profoundly transformed by digitization. One is music, and the other one is video. The music industry was dominated by the record companies that controlled the business for decades. And finally, music, which was analog, became digital, and the MP3 appeared. Steve Jobs saw an opportunity there. And he said, if music is digital, people will not want to buy the plastic records, and they will not want to buy the songs in groups of 10. We will have to sell them one by one, and you can carry a device in your pocket with the music. So he launched the iPod, the Apple Music Store, and the iPhone. Apple did operating systems. They had nothing to do with music, but in a short period of years, they took all the music share of the market. So instead of buying the physical record, the change is not about buying digital music. We know that in a digital world, we don't want to buy anything. Buying a song sounds ridiculous. Despacito song was a great song, but we don't want to listen to it anymore. Can you imagine if we had bought it? Spotify understood this, and they prevailed over or dominated the world of music. So we don't want to buy the records anymore. We just want to listen to the songs. Now, the video world is more interesting. The video world was controlled by Blockbuster, a chain of retail stores. You went to the video club, you took that little box with the video, you watched it, you rewound it, and then if you forgot to return the movie, then you had lots of surcharges. In that context, Spotify appeared. No, Netflix appeared. Did you know about this Netflix? Netflix, when it launched, when it was released in the US, it was the easiest way of renting a DVD. Netflix realized that people didn't want to go to the video club, so they decided to send them over regular mail. So they destroyed Blockbuster. 95,000 employees were jobless. 9,000 stores throughout the world closed their doors. Netflix, the new highly successful company, was on the Forbes, Fortune, and Times magazines, and they debunked the giant Blockbuster. But this was not the deep change. It's the same as music. Instead of renting in the video club, the change was about not having to rent. We want to see or watch the movie we would like to watch whenever we want to see it. And Netflix killed Netflix in turn. The interesting fact about this story is that this Netflix was highly successful. It was listed on the stock exchange, and its value was thousands of millions of dollars. And Netflix had the courage to kill the chicken or the hen with the golden eggs. And it killed its own creation to evolve. Otherwise, it would have been destroyed by digitization. So all these problems in the world of labor can create problems in terms of equality. And I would like to show you that human beings have this basic need to be treated in equitable terms. And I'm going to show you this with monkeys, our closest cousins. There are two monkeys that have a simple test. When they deliver their chips, they receive a reward. He receives a piece of cucumber, and the monkey is very happy to be able to eat this reward. But the other monkey receives something else, a grape. And you know that monkeys love grapes. There is no comparison between a cucumber and a grape for a monkey. Now, let's look at what happened. The monkey gives out the chip, receives a cucumber. He's happy because he got something. The other monkey is delivering the chip, and he receives a grape. And the other monkey sees that. Okay, now they are delivering more chips, but he still gets a cucumber. So you know what you can do with that. Come on, you gave him a grape. Give me a grape as well. So the same thing goes on, and he believes, well, perhaps it's a question of bad luck. Let's try again. I want my grape. Now look at the face when he gets something else. I don't want this shit anymore. Finally, I was saying that these changes can create inequality. People who find it very difficult to acquire the new skills, or people who don't want to do it simply because they are old or because... So, designing this process carefully will be tremendously important. And now, to conclude, I would like to leave you with the thought that now more than ever we need to develop our prospective thinking. We need to understand reality not as a snapshot, but trying to project a movie going forward. I am surprised by the number of people, companies and governments that make short and medium-term decisions as if the context were static, without realizing that these decisions are decisions for a different kind of world. What kind of careers to pursue, what kind of decisions our kids should make. All of this should be based on the question, for what world am I taking this decision? In other words, the faster we go, the longer view we need to take. So, if, as many people do, you believe that changing means high risks, I invite you to try the risk of not changing. In this world, it is riskier not to embrace change. So, question is, will you disrupt or will you be disrupted? And I will invite you to be the disruptors. Thank you.
Bueno, nosotros trabajamos en medios, Santi, y en los medios somos muy
We work in the media business. We are aware of the changes that have taken place, and we are thinking all the time and getting ready for those new changes. But what happens is that some of those changes are visible to us, and others are under the surface and are taking place in big companies, and they impact on our consumer habits, and we were not ready for them. What we are doing is getting ready, getting training for those new changes, because to be able to tell stories, we need to get ready in a different way. Do you have any ideas or any proposals or any hints for this community of media people in connection with the upcoming changes as regards new technologies? I'm not a media expert, but the introduction of your question, I believe, is incredibly optimistic. I don't agree that the media people are getting ready. And it doesn't speak ill of media people. This non-reaction is universal. This failure to react is universal. This is not just any group of people. I believe that the industry is not getting ready, and fortunately some people understand that the tsunami is coming and they are trying to find a surfboard. But it's a minority attitude. That's why it makes it very important for all of us to be here. There are TV channel programming managers who don't use email. It's 25 years old email, and they're still not using it. Their idea, their concept of narrative, of interaction with users, makes us all be 15 years behind. Let me accept that change has been slower than we thought. When we did NewsOc, we thought that it was already happening. Many of those things already happened, but not everything. The media make everything to be behind. The media creators or the media creative people have started to understand the challenges brought about by new technologies. The banks feel that they are the ones who started, and then they don't know how to interpret. I don't have a recipe. Being here is a big, major step. I have just mentioned. Can you repeat that so that we record that? I believe that being here is a great, big first step. But this is part of the 23 hours per year. It's a great trigger, but why don't you think about what you're going to do? You need to devote 1 day a week to learn about the new stuff that's happening. When you talk to adults, after some while, if there is some intimacy atmosphere, they believe that they are profoundly inadequate, that technology is too much for them, that they can't keep up. And my question to them is, just honestly, how many hours have you devoted to learning those things that you feel that you don't know? You're not going to learn them through osmosis. Not even when we were young did we learn through osmosis. When you are a kid, well, it's easier. But when you are an adult, you need to train, you need to create stimuli, you need to fail. So I believe that we need to find time in our lives to experiment and to acquire these new things. The key for success of Mediamorphosis and its growth is that we are trying to find those steps where there is some innovation in small undertakings or in large companies, and there is a community that has started to identify that, and it takes that to this new world. Let's open the floor to questions. Does anyone have a question? When are you publishing your new book? I've just told you a lie. A month ago, I made a decision to start my new book. The first one is called Passage to the Future. I don't know if you can download the introduction and one of the most important chapters from my book online for free. I sat down to work on a Sunday. I wrote a lot, and after a month, I didn't do anything in connection with the book. Like for my previous book, it took me more than 2 years. I find it really very hard to find the time to write. I want the book to win. I want to have more free time in my life, and I'm going to take like a pseudo sabbatical year as of October 1st, so that I will be able to have my next book ready in 6 or 8 months' time. Any other questions? Yes. First of all, here. First of all, thank you for sharing all the research. And also, yesterday it was mentioned that creators should wait for the medium to look for them. That we shouldn't go out to look for the medium, but we should try for the medium to find us. And you were just saying that in large companies, they have people who don't use email. How can we get to those spaces? How can we create some content and try to convince some people who don't seem to understand the new content? That's where the problem lies, because sometimes we have good ideas, but you always need some funding. You need the support from a team. How do you think that is achieved today? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a media entrepreneur. In any new idea, for any new project, you will need some capital to be able to start. And it's not going to be large companies or TV channels or film studios that are going to give you the money. The great wonder that happened in the entrepreneurship world, I founded my first company 25 years ago. The name was OfficeNet. For me to know whether it was a good idea or not, we had to set up the company with 20 employees, with 400 square meters of office, 1,500 square meters of warehouse, a truck, a telephone switch, and lots of other stuff. It was crazy. To be able to know whether you can build a bridge over a river, first you build the bridge, and then you see whether the calculations are okay, and whether the bridge can withstand the weight or not. Today, it's a different paradigm. You do like a pilot with just 2 pennies. You don't do a whole episode. You just prepare 2 minutes because you don't have the money. So you need to get a few dollars for that, which is a challenge, but much less than putting together a full product. And after you get the prototype, you need to see how to use that prototype through feedback from real users. But social media give you huge opportunities now. In the past, it was impossible. I remember when a band had a new song, they had to distribute the demo in the radios. I remember with Los Pericos, that was the case. El Baiano, or Juanchi, sent a cassette, a tape, to Rock and Pop radio. Someone liked it, and that was the boom of Los Pericos. How many bands managed that success? And you had to distribute your tapes in all radios. Today you can spend a couple of dollars to buy some traffic, to see what happens to people when they look at this, to see whether it goes viral or not. You find out that people have been watching it, and then it drops for some reason, and so you re-edit the video because people are getting bored. The opportunities that you have of testing stuff and learning with relatively little money is incredible. And you can do this with real users. Hello, Santiago. Thank you for your presentation. It's my pleasure. I'd like to ask you a question about how to choose your career. You mentioned the degree program choices at the University of Buenos Aires from Centennials. How about the development of soft skills and the need for learning to learn? Other than computing or AI as degree programs that one could take up, if you had to provide some advice to young people as to what to use for the future, and maybe disciplines are related to the present or the past, what would be the outlook for those decisions to be made so that we don't have that chart saying that they have chosen jobs of the past? I have a child who has just started college at the University of Buenos Aires. Your question is naive. In my particular experience, my opinion, he didn't give a shit about my opinion. He did whatever he wanted. I couldn't influence his decision at all. So it didn't work with my child. But this question is asked of me quite often. I always provide the same answer. I didn't do this when I was in that position, but if I had to choose my career, my degree program, the question that I would ask myself is, in which areas of human activities are the greatest things are going to happen over the next 20 years? Will it be in accounting? I don't think so. Will it be in law? Biotechnology? Maybe there's something there. Scientific computing, IT, artificial intelligence, without a doubt. So a linear way of looking at it is where is the money? Because money, in a way, is an approximation of measuring the value created by that job. But forget about the money. I would like to be there where the greatest stuff is being created. When you are 18 years old, you have all the chances of taking that direction for your future. Then you can reroute, but it gets tougher and tougher. If you studied botanics and you want to go for biotechnology, it's quite close. But if you studied zoology, you're not so close. I would like to be the protagonist of those things that will define my times. Thank you, Santi. It's been a pleasure.